Hearts Full of Midnight, Chapter 4. The front door opened, and I heard Denton Burgess speak for the first time. It was a calm voice, not unkind. It was like most I'd heard, in fact, just like his face was like most you saw. He wasn't much, especially in comparison to his wife, who, even when she looked as haggard as I'd seen her, was stunning enough she could kill you twice and revive you once. "Well, good evening," he said, surprise in his voice, but not much else. It's an eternal mystery to me how a plain-faced guy could ever tire of a beautiful woman, especially when he knew he was marrying up. But this wasn't a man grown weary of his wife, so I didn't have to wonder on that score. It was just that he was so, well, normal. Nothing he did was surprising. If I had a girl like that at home, waiting for me, coming home every day would be like a birthday party full of balloons and noisemakers. A normal guy like Denton didn't think anything of it. He was just so average, he couldn't even conceive of something beyond his kin. He'd probably never thought twice of why a staggering beauty had ever agreed to settle down with him. He'd probably just assumed that's the way it was all over the world. "Good evening, darling. How was your day?" she asked. Her tone changed to something welcoming, if not gushing. "Lousy. I'm beat. What are you still doing up?" "I couldn't sleep. Thought a nightcap might help." "Sure it will. It'll have you snoring away in no time." "Don't tease. I don't snore, do I?" "Like a Harley." "No." Denton laughed, and I could hear the smack of lips when they broke their embrace. "You drinking it neat tonight, honey?" he asked. "I could get tight just off your kiss." "Well, if I want it to do what I want it to do, it doesn't make much sense to water it down, does it?" "Now that you mention it." "I have dinner for you in the oven. Do you want something to eat before I—" "Nah, I'm beat," I said. "I'll eat when I've grabbed a few hours." "No! Don't bother hanging up your coat." I tensed, expecting then for the closet door to open and leave me face to face with a guy who would jump to conclusions. But Sally was too quick for that. "Just throw it over the chair there. I'll hang it up later." "Why don't you come to bed with me?" he asked. "I'd really rather not tonight, Denton. I'm sorry." "Not what I'm talking about. Maybe if I'm next to you, it'll help you sleep." I... "Sure, Denton. Sure." There was a clatter of his lunch pail settling onto the floor and the thumps of his boots as he pulled them off and set them near the front door. "Say, throw open the bedroom window, would you?" Denton said. "It's stuffy in here. I need to breathe." They went to bed after that, no other words between them. What they had said had held the timbre of a dialogue spoken in some variation 1,000 times. I let out a long breath I'd been holding since what felt like his arrival. A distant click of a lamp switch was the last I heard of them. Afterwards, time slowed down to a crawl. I was left standing ramrod straight in the closet, which got stuffy with my hot breath within minutes. My only company was the occasional tickle of a coat or other object brushing against my back. Every time it happened felt like the first time, and every time I tried not to jump or otherwise give myself away to Denton Burgess. The dark was there too, and it seemed to devour not just all the light but time itself. It felt like 2 or 3 hours before I could hear snoring. It wasn't Sally's either. It was coming from a masculine throat, and boy, was it tearing down the wallpaper. I let it go on a while, just long enough I knew Denton Burgess was out and not coming back until the roosters were crowing. The bedroom was straight across from the closet as I exited, and I could see Sally lying on her back in bed. Denton was on his stomach, one long arm hanging over the side of the bed until it nearly touched the floor. His face was half buried in a pillow, and his mouth was wide open. Sally was staring right at me, peering over her husband's back with big dark eyes that I only knew were there because of the way some far-off streetlight made them shine. She said nothing, just watched me go out the front door without so much as a whisper, pull it closed, and tiptoe down the stairs. Chapter 5. I went straight home to bed and was back up again by 5, arriving at the office by 7. The sun was up and it was looking like another scorcher of a day. Benny, who owned the newsstand across the street from my office, was quick to tell me the Angels had won the day before. I bought a paper and grabbed 3 detective magazines off the rack. Black Mask, Thrilling Dime Detective, and one I hadn't seen before, Astonishing Oriental Mysteries. "A real barn burner," he said, presumably of the baseball game. I shrugged and plunked down enough to cover costs and a little extra. Benny was putting his oldest through trade school and needed it where he could get it. I had it, and so he got it. "You know, Hardwood, I don't get you," he said. Like any good newsagent, he was fat and jowly. His skin always looked like a sausage casing with too much meat stuffed into it. "What's not to get?" I asked.
"Well, here you are. You got your own agency. You're doing your own cases. It's the real stuff, yet you come in every week and you buy these rags from me. The sleazier the better with you, too."
"I'm new to the game," I replied. "Consider these instruction manuals." Benny roared way louder than the quip called for, but that wasn't unusual. He was one of those guys who lived life just a little more joyously than the average G, and everything that came out of him was just a little bigger as a result. I took my parcel and left. The resident dentist was just coming around the corner as I approached the building where our offices were located. He nodded at me and looked like he wanted to play nice. About a month ago, he'd sold out one of my Hollywood clients to a gossip columnist, a harpy named Agatha Tate. It cost me the client, and I'd nearly throttled him for it. I would have spit in his eye, but I'd been told by building management to be a good boy, so that's how I played it. "Hopkins," I said, "how's tricks?"
"Hello, Hardwood. Angels won yesterday, did you hear?"
"Apparently it's all anyone can talk about. Hey, I was thinking you should open a candy store down the block. Catch 'em coming and going."
"Funny. Never heard that one before."
"What?" "Nah, I'm calling Schenectady. They said that joke was certified fresh." We pushed inside. Our landlady, Joy Kafalis, was dusting the lobby's sparse furnishings. She saw me and nodded to the coffee table in the center of the room where something wrapped in aluminum lay. "Svakianapata," she said. "Dr. Hopkins, how are you today?"
"Swell, Mrs. Kafalis. Say, why are you feeding him and not me?"
"Because you have a beautiful wife to do all of that for you, and he doesn't," she replied. To me, she added, "Dunk that in some coffee. You'll love it." "I love anything I don't have to cook," I replied, and took up my care package without missing a step.
"You cook?"
Hopkins asked. He made it sound like I did it while wearing a tutu. "Well, if you call it that. I make a mean breakfast and a corned beef hash so ugly its own mother won't claim it." Upstairs, my secretary let me know I had a busy day. Busy for me, anyway. An hour later, I was 2 clients deep in my waiting area, with my old friend and client, Ann Spurlock, talking my ear off. "Judy Pena still swears by you, by the way," she said to me. We'd met through Judy, and when Ann had come along with a story about how her husband, Michael, was stepping out on her, I'd taken her on. "You helped find her Ricky when he went missing last year." "How is Mrs. Pena?" I asked. I was trying not to be distracted, but last night had me worried still. I felt like I'd reset the timer on a bomb without defusing it. "Fine. Ricky? Well..." "Some souls are just lost, Anne," I said. "They come into this world that way and it doesn't change until they go out again. Most of them earlier than they should." "But that's not my Michael," she insisted.
That's certainly not what I'm implying, and pardon me if it came off as such. In fact, unless something's changed, your husband is clean as a whistle. A lot of that going around lately. I'm not so sure about that. A lot of that, too. With all due respect, Anne, you weren't sure the last time you came in here to hire me, but I didn't find anything then either.
Yes, and you told me to get lost unless I found something else about him.
I wouldn't put it in those words, but yes, I concluded our business arrangement. It isn't ethical to keep taking money from a woman for nothing. Now, do you have new information you can share? She pulled a rueful face that made me take notice.
I'd say.
What?
Michael's been leaving town lately, going off to spend nights in a hotel.
No reason why?
She shrugged. He says it's for work, but that makes no sense. Why would he need to leave town if he works in the planning office?
I chewed my lip. Okay, that is something. Her face brightened.
So you believe me?
I believe that he's leaving town and staying in motels if you say he is. It doesn't prove anything, of course, but I can look into it for you if you like.
I do. I'm telling you, Johnny, there's something wrong. There has to be.
The phrasing hit me like it was made out of fists. Something must have shown on my face as Anne Spurlock gave me a look.
You all right?
Yeah, fine. Look, Anne, I'll take you on again as a client, but only on one condition. She lifted her chin.
Such as?
She asked. You have to agree that whatever I find or don't find, you accept my report as is.
Well, I just don't see what,
ma'am. I say this not because I might find something. You've said as much that you think I will. But should I find your husband is still clean, you have to agree to accept that and drop the whole business.
But you...
Those are my conditions. She didn't like it, but I got a big smile from her anyway.
Fair enough. I know you'll do a good job, Johnny. You're very good to me, you know.